again to another one of our QuaranSTREAMs answers for COVID-19. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so you may have noticed many of us are wearing green, and we hope that you speak to your family and think about the ways that you can support yourself and others during this time. As always, I'm your member at large on the Fairfax County School Board, Abrar Omeish, and I'm thrilled today to be joined with...
I'm Kimberly Boateng, and I'm the student rep on the school board.
Hi, I'm Stacy Swan. I am a volunteer and board member with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
I'm Megan Souza. I'm the youth program coordinator at NAMI Northern Virginia.
Hi, I'm Kheira Bekkadja. I'm a junior at Edison High School, and I'm representing Our Minds Matter, and this is my brave team.
Hi, I'm Anastasia, and I'm also a junior at South Lakes High School, and today I'm representing South Lakes High School as well as This Is My Brave and Our Minds Matter.
Hi, I'm Jada. I'm a sophomore at Woodson High School, and I'm here today to represent Our Minds Matter and This Is My Brave.
When we refer to mental health, mental wellness, help us kind of convey to the audience here, what are we talking about exactly?
We all have mental health, just like we all have physical health. Mental health is very broad. I mean, from when we're worried about something, when we're nervous about a test, to feeling sad, from the loss of a friend or a loved one. I think right now a lot of people are struggling on a level of just, struggling with their mental health, meaning maybe they're more stressed than usual. And a lot of people might be experiencing new feelings that they haven't been before because of this isolation.
I'd love to hear from y'all about your thoughts around the stigma, and maybe what leads us to that, and how can we kind of break that down and better understand this for what it really is.
I think the reason that there is a stigma around mental health is just because I think a lot of people associate mental health with mental illness automatically, and they just have a misunderstanding of what mental health is. So there's just varying degrees of mental health, I would say. In order to eliminate the stigma, there also needs to be a lot of self-education, and also just reaching out and learning about what mental health actually is and what they can do to help people who are struggling with mental health.
Yeah, I completely agree with Anastasia, and I think that a lot of the times people will see mental health or poor mental health as being a bad thing, and I think that people need to understand that it's just a challenge that people are facing, or it's not something that people can just get over. It's not always something that you can control.
But I think people's view of mental illness is that it's something that, makes you incompetent or violent, or incapable of functioning day to day, and those are not accurate definitions of what mental illness is. And part of it's the media, part of it's just a lack of understanding of what that experience of living with a mental health condition is like. And so we prioritize sharing stories, people sharing this is their experience, this is what I live with on a day-to-day basis, and this is what's real. And we know that, mental illness impacts everybody very differently, and there's so many different ways it manifests, and but you can't really understand it without hearing those stories from people sharing what it's actually like.
Out of every 5 people will have a mental health crisis in their lifetime, and it doesn't mean that you're different.
Yeah, a lot of the stigma comes from people thinking, oh, if I have a mental health condition, this means that it makes me weak or something. And I just want to stress that it doesn't, and that the more you're speaking about it, the more you're telling people you need help, it's actually showing more strength in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to add to the piece that perhaps to move away from the stigma, internalizing the fact that it's actually something that impacts everyone, right? So it's not, those people who are weaker, as some of you mentioned, thinking that they're inferior somehow. And it's also not a label. We're kind of beyond those labels. And in the ebbs and flows of life, we are all susceptible to any of these challenges that will come forward and that we will experience as a result of all sorts of things. It's important for us to kind of challenge our assumptions about how we think of mental health, and recognize that the more we educate ourselves and expose ourselves to understanding what this is, the more we'll see it for what it is, and the less it'll feel like something that is weak or is inferior or anything like that.
No, you can put on a mask or you can seem one way, but it doesn't actually mean the exact same as what's going on the inside of someone.
Mental health and emotional intelligence are just as important as history, math, language arts, everything.
The word trauma can sound scary, probably to the average person, but trauma can be much softer, right? It can mean growing up in a home where there are a lot of loud noises. It can mean growing up in poverty when you don't have a stable source of nourishment or what you need, right?
Yeah, trauma is so complex, and there's a lot that we don't know about it still, but what's considered a trauma to each person is very different, and every person responds differently to trauma. One thing I want to point out is, this current situation that we're experiencing will likely be traumatic to many people. Losses of life, especially for, healthcare workers, are experiencing trauma, but even, being isolated in your home, away from friends, losing, missing out on lots of experiences can be traumatic, and even just the fear of what's going on can, be considered a trauma. And I just, I want to make sure that we recognize that this situation can be traumatic to many people.
I hope this was informative for folks. Thank you all to our guests. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today. As always, we will be live Thursdays and Sundays at 7 p.m. addressing various topics and providing you with the latest on what we can.